Welcome to the Trailer Island podcast. It's another Wednesday and it's a week 4 of our Australian special.
Oh, I have enjoyed this past 4 weeks so much.
It's been fantastic.
Today's a special day for me because it's the last day I endure this torment.
This,
Have you not enjoyed supporting Australia cinema in our own way here by talking about Australian cinema?
Much like I do every day, I feel like Daniel Craig strapped to the wicker chair in Casino Royale. And every week it's just been another
swing of the rope.
Yes, in case you're catching up to late into the story here, we're in our final week of the Australian special month that we've been doing, and this is the 4th film in our series of film. And in case you weren't aware, Steve doesn't like Australian cinema. So I guess as a way of perhaps compromising, this week we're sort of hybridising it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's essentially an Australian film, but it certainly has a foreign element as well in a story out of India. So, I think, Steve, you can sort of just relax this week a bit. Do you think that'd be fair?
Well, we'll get into it, but after watching this movie, I don't feel like I can relax. I feel like I've been emotionally traumatized. I feel like I hurt on the inside, both with sadness and happiness. But, I mean, that just speaks to the quality of this film, which this week we are talking about.
That's right. And should we... Oh, sorry.
I was going to introduce this week.
Please do.
We were talking about Lion.
Let's start with where you're from.
Calcutta.
Which part?
I'm adopted. I'm not really Indian. I'm starting to remember.
Saru, our beautiful boy.
We're very proud of you, son.
A life I'd forgotten.
You okay?
I had another family. A mother. A brother. I can still see their faces.
What happened?
इधर जा मत मैं कल का काम निपट के आ जाऊंगा
गुड्डू गुड्डू
I have to find my way back home.
How long were you on the train?
A couple of days.
Couple of days.
It would take a lifetime to search all the stations in India.
Do you have any idea what it's like? How every day my real brother screams my name.
I always thought that I could keep this family together. I need you, Saru.
What if you do find home and they're not even there? And you just keep searching?
I don't have a choice.
What was she like?
Beautiful. Every night I imagine that I'm walking those streets home, and I know every single step of the way. And I whisper in her ear, I'm here.
I think that trailer sums up how, I'm going to say, emotionally epic, if that makes sense, this film is.
I would say it undersells the trauma.
Oh, God, yeah. I saw this when it first came out in cinemas a couple of years ago, and I sat down to rewatch this, and I was not prepared. I had forgotten how much... I mean this in a good way, obviously, but just how this film will make you feel things.
Oh, yeah.
This will make you feel things is the best way to put it.
We've got Dev Patel, who's playing the lead story in this. His character is
Saru.
And it's a film that's kind of split in two, would you say?
I definitely thought that the first time around. I think the second time around, I thought that they actually intertwined it a little better.
Okay.
There's some very good editing going on here.
The main crux of the story is that Saru is he's adopted to an Australian family, and he's trying to, when he was, maybe 5 years old from India?
Yeah. I think 5, yeah.
And he is trying to Google Earth has just been discovered. It's like 2008. Sorry, it had always been there. Sorry, had just been invented. So he's introduced to it, and he tries to use his memories to remember where he was from. And one thing I think the trailer doesn't do is sell how the film is structured in a way, because we actually get a lot of Saru as a young boy, probably almost halfway through the film.
Yeah, I was sort of taking note of that because I really did expect a more concise prologue, if you will, into the film.
Okay.
And so there's a part where young Saru gets onto a train, and I'm thinking, okay, here we go. We're getting into the time jump here. And no, it just sort of continues for another probably 25 minutes or so.
It actually plays out pretty much chronologically. Yeah. But what I love about this is, as a result, the first half hour is a foreign language film. There's no English in the first half hour of this movie. It's subtitled. And when I went to see this, I hadn't seen the trailer the first time I went to see it, and I thought, oh, okay, this is going to be a film set entirely for the majority of it in Indian. And then obviously when he gets adopted, having not seen the trailer initially, I thought, oh my God, this is so happy. But he's also been adopted half an hour into the film, so I know that stuff is now going to happen. And I just remember thinking, like, no, he's a bit like in Series of Unfortunate Events, when they go to Billy Connolly's house, you really want the film to end there, because you go, no, that's their happy ending, don't keep going. And this film, I feel like, is a similar thing where he kind of arrives at this happy place after half an hour of horrible things that had, like, people trying to manipulate him or take advantage of him. We're talking like adults and trafficking, that kind of thing. I just love how this film then changes focus half an hour into, okay, he discovers Google Earth and goes, no, I should try and find where I come from just childhood memories. I think it's pretty cool.
I think that's the strongest part about this movie is that the way that director, let me get his name up first, Gareth Davis. I think that's the beauty of it. He creates trauma for this character so intense that when we do get introduced to adult Saru, we absolutely buy into the fact that he doesn't remember any of this because he's repressed it.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. And one thing you pointed on there, Matthew, about the language that the film is in, it also plays into the film itself, is that the characters within the film in India, they speak different languages.
That's right.
Because I think it's Bengali and Hindi.
Yeah.
And they don't, there's a language barrier within the country itself. And that was a real education for me.
Me too.
There was so much of this film that encapsulated the culture and the community of India, because I don't think we really have an understanding of, like, truly there is, quite a bit of separation of culture within its own country.
And that's why I love the fact that this film very deliberately lets you experience that culture for half an hour before it moves you to Australia. Because I always find it quite shocking, just the level of poverty. It is actually shocking. There's just the unfortunate situations that some people find themselves in. And also just seeing sort of, there's that bit where he gets off the train finally in Calcutta as a child, and you see all the other abandoned or homeless children, and there are so many of them, and you suddenly go like this. We should mention, if we haven't, that this is based on a true story as well. And so when you're watching it with that in mind and you see sort of those scenes, you go, this is one story about one child, but I mean, how many others are there?
Yeah.
It kind of drives it home a little bit.
And it certainly doesn't pull any punches about the reality of the pain that the homeless, the children, all go through. It really is quite challenging to watch.
The thing that gets me is when they're in that train station and these people come down to abduct these children, and there's a policeman or guard there, and he completely turns a blind eye to it. Yeah. That's quite very good filmmaking, because there's no dialogue. You completely understand what's going on without a single action, just by the way that actor's standing there in that uniform. But yeah, I find the first half hour of this film very, obviously, speaking as someone who's grown up in Australia, to be quite an education. I think is probably like you said, quite an education. Yeah,
I'd say it's really well written, and you touch on the fact that there is no dialogue in that scene, but for the rest of the movie, especially the India scenes, there isn't a lot of dialogue going on at all, but you're getting this immense feeling of Saru being lost. And then, when he's an adult, you really are getting the frustration that Saru is feeling in not being able to remember certain, aspects of his childhood that can help him get home.
Yeah, there's that great scene where he goes around, well, this might be jumping ahead a little bit in the plot, but he goes around to a house party with some uni friends, and they are Indian, and they remember their culture and their upbringing. And he has that thing where he's just sort of, I think he realizes how much he doesn't know, and he says it's in the trailer, and it comes up multiple times in the film. He says, I'm not Indian. I do not remember that culture. I've been brought up, and as all I sort of remember now is I act like an Australian, and that's sort of, he feels that disconnect, and I think that's part of what frustrates him so much is he hates the fact that he's still got these childhood memories of his brother, and I think to a certain degree his younger sister, and obviously his mother, but he also feels like he's, I guess, a different person, and maybe they wouldn't recognize him, kind of thing.
And what I really liked about it is that the journey that you go on for roughly probably the first 45 minutes across India, it gives you enough time to absorb that, so that when he is looking for his clues and going through the things in his head, you feel like you're helping him along the way. No, that was that thing, and that was that thing.
Yeah.
And just visually trying to work things out. Like, it does a really good way without going, slapping you across the face with clues. It lets you subtly absorb things and release those answers to you as the film goes on.
I was so worried there was going to be like that Sherlock moment,
I
was worried that he'd figure out that the moths she was running through as a child are only seen in this one.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen. It's literally by sheer brute force they actually finds his way
and it took a really long time.
Yeah.
And it almost destroys him as well, because even though he is our main character, he turns into a bit of a dick.
He does.
He becomes insufferable
now,
for a moment.
Talking of that, I'd love to talking of subtlety as well. This is quite a good... Hey, segue! Hooray!
Oh, well done.
I really think that the people around him, his adopted family, are written and portrayed in a really realistic, non-melodramatic way. Mm-hmm. You've got two very realistic parents, and there's no thing where the parents break up or go through a divorce. They're just loving adoptive parents. They love him and they want to do the best by him. And he has a girlfriend played by Rooney Mara. Is it Lucy?
Lucy, yeah.
Lucy. And she is also... They don't have... he obviously, when he starts getting a bit
have their
obsessed,
challenges.
They have their challenges, but she's not... It's not like there's a big fight where they throw plates at each other, that kind of thing. It's all done quite naturalistically, and subtly, which I really like.
I would disagree with that. I feel like there's a point where they break up for the first time, and I thought that was just a little too sudden between the two characters. But I understand. I get what you're saying there.
I also think you had to score me on how to say his name at the beginning. I've forgotten. David Wenham?
Yeah.
Wenham from Lord of the Rings fame and countless other Australian films. Not that Lord of the Rings is Australian. And obviously Nicole Kidman. And I think both of them are terrific in that. I completely believe that they care for this child that they've adopted from India, that they've never met before. That scene in the airport when he rocks up, it's like, that's so sweet. You feel so happy for him. You go, because you've sort of seen 2 or 3 situations where he thinks he can trust the person who's found him, and they initially treat him well, and then you go, no, actually, no, they're bad people. And then finally you go, oh, I actually feel like for once he's actually arrived at a safe place, and he has, and it's a really nice moment. You go, oh, I feel so happy for him.
I'm pretty hard on Nicole Kidman.
Yes.
All right? And for good reason. She's I think she bats at about 50% her whole career. But I will concede that her performance in this is it's subdued, it's subtle, it's emotive, it's very much helped along by the writing.
Sure.
The only thing I really, really disliked about her performance was her hamming up the Australian accent.
I completely disagree.
I think it is subtle, and it's exactly where it needs to be. So if you listen to Nicole Kidman's accent now in interviews, she's basically half American, but she definitely had training to do this, and it is a lovely, soft Australian accent that, to me, sounds very, across our nation we have different accents, and I think it sounded a very Adelaidean or Hobartian accent.
Yeah.
It had that softness to it.
And
I
I
thought
should
Dev
say,
Patel's accent was a lot better.
I was about to say,
it's fantastic.
Dev Patel. Now, we're pretty sure he's obviously got Indian heritage, but we're born in the UK and probably has a UK accent. I think
That's correct. Yeah,
his Australian accent is really good, really good. And I kind of enjoy seeing him come up against Rooney Mara, obviously with her natural American accent, or I'm assuming it's her natural American accent. And just as a cinema going, I was like, it's kind of nice to hear the contrast between an American and an Australian accent. And neither of them are done to parody.
Yeah.
They're both realistic. It's nice.
And I guess part of that is that, with a British accent as a base, getting to an Australian accent's quite easy.
Not for me.
Well, come on, give us an example.
No.
Again.
No, we've done this once before, and I don't...
Say something like, we're off for a walk on the island today.
We're off. No, I can't do it. Nah. It's going to come out...
Our listeners demand it, Matthew.
Oh, but I've been embarrassed so much before. What was it? We're off to a walk on the island.
We're off for a walk on the island.
We're off. I can't even get started.
Yeah.
We're off for a walk on the island.
I can see you.
A little bit, okay.
A little bit at the end there, yeah.
You look so cute trying to do your accent. I just want to say, my favorite scene in this movie is probably the scene that actually sets off the investigation, and that is when he smells a sweet treat that he once experienced in his childhood, and he breaks down.
His performance is so it's powerful.
It's very powerful.
Yeah, the way he's just sort of frozen there, and he just doesn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't know what to do.
I adore that scene. I really do.
It's a huge moment in the film.
There are a lot of really strong moments of realization where, the camera doesn't zoom up on something to go, look at this thing, look at this thing, look at this thing. This is the clue. Another thing I really liked about this is that a story of brothers.
Yeah,
and there are two stories of brothers through this.
Mm-hmm.
There is the start where it's him with his older brother,
Gudu. Oh, heartbreaking.
And then later on with, is it Mantosh?
Yep, that's right.
And now Gudu is his older brother, biological older brother, and Mantosh is his adopted older brother, and they each have different stories. But I tell you what, the fact that the older brother, back in India, just wasn't a jerk to him. Like know how
really nice guy.
So often filmmakers try to create tension by having family members, be jerks to each other. In this, no, it's about a loving story between two brothers. And yes, they have some tension, but it seems so real.
Yeah.
And then later on, when you go with the older adopted brother who has obviously suffered horribly before he was brought to Australia, it just plays off so well on all of those elements.
I am only just coming to that realization. I was sitting there last night and I was saying, you know what, the weakest part of the story is this older adopted brother subplot. I don't know why this is in here, and you've just hit something on the head.
It parallels his love of...
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, because obviously... And I think that's why he... at a certain point in this movie, he does have even in his own words, quite a hatred for Mantosh.
Yeah.
He hates what he... It's not Mantosh's fault, but obviously...
It's a resentment.
There's some resentment there for the stress that it's what he's dealing with, and the way he's dealt with his issues has the stress that's caused their adopted parents. But also, it's also then put aside the fact that he misses his biological older... And he keeps having visions of him, just around the place, especially as he starting to get obsessive. Alex, you said you researched the true story about this a little bit, and because I really want to find out... I'm assuming there's a bit of, creative license in this movie. There usually always is. I am curious to know how much of this is accurate, because if this is accurate, this is an incredible real-life story.
Mm-hmm. The overarching story, for the most part, that he is adopted when he's young, he can't remember, he was whisked away on a train, all of that is real. Everything about coming to Australia, all of that is real, and him going and using Google Earth in an attempt to find where home is, all happened.
Yeah.
All of that is real.
And that's incredible.
And, the drama that is played out between the characters, I feel like is exactly that. It is dramatized for the screen. But I do know that Mantosh, his brother, who was brought over from India, suffered extremely horrible things in the months leading up to him being sent to Australia. Like, he arrived in Australia with fresh cigarette burns on his skin and his scalp, and amongst the other things, which, research at your own peril, happened to him. So the representation of a damaged soul is, I think, appropriate in this. And I did read that the real Mantosh, when he saw this film, did struggle with, life for a bit there, because either it A, wasn't what he thought it would represent, or B, brought back a lot of fresh damage.
Yeah, and I think that's
up to the surface.
I think that's the theme of this movie. It is trauma, because we're not just talking about Mantosh's trauma. We're not just talking about Saru's historical trauma. We're also talking about the trauma that Saru's adoptive family, his girlfriend, are also experiencing, and Saru's fresh trauma in this new hunt for his old family. He's pushing a lot of people away, and he's creating a lot of scars himself. Maybe not on purpose, but he's definitely, like you said, pushing people away.
Yeah, that causes a lot of grief for his family. Like his mum, she's obviously been under a lot of stress over the years, and because she's just not getting the information. Saru's shutting himself out. Their other adopted son is, on a variety of drugs because he's clearly dealing with a lot of stuff. The film kept a true life in a sense, because these people in real life stayed together to look after these kids.
And I love that about this story.
And they didn't do anything like, they separated because, it adds to the drama.
I'm glad they didn't do that. I'm glad that, the mother and father, they're just, like I said earlier, they don't introduce any unnecessary drama there. It's just, no, they're just trying their best, as all parents would, to look after these two adopted sons. And you just see the results of, as you say, Steve, this trauma that they've all been through, creating fresh wounds.
Yeah.
And I think it's just done so well. I really like the scene where the dad comes to Saru's house to sort of basically say, hey, look, mate, we haven't seen you for a while. Can you come round? Can you talk to your mum? She misses you. And obviously Saru just doesn't go to the door. And for some reason, I don't know, that scene is just so well shot.
Yeah.
Really well, and acted, and the whole film is really, And I think going back to the trailer, though, that trailer really is a roller coaster. For once, I think a trailer has really not had to work hard to represent the roller coaster, the emotional roller coaster that's present within the film. Like the trailers, if you like the trailer, you're gonna love the movie.
It doesn't spoil anything as well, and you might have noticed we've intentionally stayed away from spoilers tonight because I don't think I've appreciated such an emotional ending in quite some time. And I think it's probably best that the audience sort of experiences that for themselves.
Yeah. I agree. I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to even let slip anything that happens at the end.
We do talk a lot about the film gave me laugh, gave me cry. gave me cry.
So much cry.
Just cry. Lots of cry.
Lots of cry.
I think it's really important to quickly touch on perhaps the cinematography and the sound design.
Absolutely.
I was just about to say.
The opening is Steve's favourite, is cinematic shots of landscapes.
But it's not it is Australia. There's a bit of both going on.
Yes, it sort of goes, I think it starts in Australia and I think then finishes off in India.
That's right.
Or something like that. But it is beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Unlike our other films, this has had a purpose to it, a more deliberate purpose.
And those same shots do then appear later on in the film.
Yes.
So
and it does become relevant. And so I felt like in this moment it had a license to exist.
I thought it carried on for a little too long.
I would agree.
It was the full credit sequence at the beginning of the film, so we're talking about like 3 minutes.
Yeah, but obviously, they're trying to tie it into the whole Google Earth view thing. So, it makes sense for once.
And it was actually quite interesting that we had almost the full credits at the start of a film, which doesn't happen too often.
No, not anymore.
These days.
I don't think I've seen the casting director be billed so high on a credits thing.
Yeah, well, now Greg Fraser, it was the cinematographer on this, and apparently he pushed back. He's wanted all the time for projects, Star Wars, the whole lot. And in this, he pushed back a bunch of projects to do this story.
It's shot amazingly.
It looks phenomenal.
Because it's the one good Australian film, that's why.
We have it on record.
There it is.
Thinks that it's a good Australian film.
Except for Babe. Everyone loves Babe.
All the shots in Tasmania and Melbourne as well.
Yeah.
I mean, particularly Tasmania, because, it's almost cheating because the landscape there is so beautiful. But, what it showed about the story of India as well, because he did it in both places. Just like, this is amazing.
I love they have sort of train tracks, obviously, as a running thing, because obviously you use the train tracks to trace a lot of stuff in Google Earth. But I think the way that those train stations are shot in India feeds back into, again, that kind of educational thing for us. You know, we all know what train stations look like here. You compare it to, I want to say, the organized chaos that is a busy peak time Indian railway station. You go, I can't imagine a young child being there. But I think that cinematography lends itself to showing the claustrophobia and just the maze of people that this young boy is thrown into, and obviously he gets lost. I mean, how could you not get lost in that?
A little while ago, I travelled the length of Russia via train, and if you said, "Can you remember what the stations look like?" I mean, I can remember what some. Sure, I took photos and stuff.
Yeah,
and some of them stick with me, but after a while, they kind of all look the same, and then it's just, the fact that this is true.
It's incredible.
It's just crazy. Quickly, the sound in this, I love the music. The music is fantastic.
The music's actually in the trailer as well.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
How about that?
That's very rare that happens. Some of that piano thing is actually in the film, which is really nice.
I appreciate the shots of Saru's investigation boards there, because it gave me such a feeling of like insomnia. He's always looking at these things, these massive meter and a half tall, boards of maps of India with radiuses drawn on them, and I love those shots.
And further to that point, I love how this film had, when he's sitting at the computer on Google Earth, there are no other lights on, and instinctively your eyes go, that's going to sting, because he's going to be up for like 6 hours in the dark staring at a laptop screen. And I think the fact that they've deliberately shot that with just the light from the laptop, so it appears like he's got all the lights off and he's only got the light of the laptop screen, helps give you that sense that he must be tired.
Mm-hmm. Well, Greg Fraser is well known for shooting a lot of his stuff without the use of extra lights.
I could see that for this.
So it just feels so right. And so I think we would all agree that the trailer is a really good representation of this film.
That trailer, like, we were watching this together earlier, and because we've seen the film, we go, oh, that's that bit. I kind of feel sad. Like it works before you've seen the film, but you can actually then go back and have like a short, without giving anything away, a short version of the film and just go, that film makes me feel that way. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, there are bits in the trailer where I just went,
No, exactly. Like we were visibly reacting to watching the trailer, having seen the film.
I'm so glad there's no blokey bloke or Aussie larrikinism in this. It's not Buck's character. Oh, look at that! It's real. It's not played up.
It feels like real people.
Thank heavens,
it does
just
feel
feels
like
like real people.
Yep.
I actually like the fact that when we're in Melbourne, metropolis of Melbourne, they haven't gone for any tour. There's no like Flinders Street, just as a cutaway, there's none of that.
They don't meet out the front of like Flinders Street Station or anything like that.
Yeah.
Interesting fact, and you'll like this, is I watched the extended edition, which has about an extra 10 minutes.
That's also the one I watched.
The Australian extended edition, and I think it's just got a couple of scenes in Melbourne or something that were cut. And one scene that I believe, Steve, you didn't see because you watched just the normal theatrical version, was an underground rave of sorts.
Which gave me Matrix 2 flashbacks, but that's okay.
Which, as soon as I saw it, I immediately recognised it because I think it's the Melbourne Uni car park or something like that, which is the exact same place. There they reveal the Interceptor in Mad Max.
Just learnt something.
Yeah, that is a fun fact.
That's a fun fact.
That is a, what is it, Matthew?
Fun fact.
All right.
We love a good fun fact. Yeah, fun. Just keep saying it. Fun fact.
What are your fun facts this week? This year, actually. What are your fun facts been?
Excuse me.
You're excused.
I have plenty of fun facts, and I will divulge them when I feel appropriate.
All right. Yeah, okay.
That's all I have to say about that. Oh, well, I mean, having said that, there's no flag waving going on, which I really like. Across all three cultures that we were exposed to here, there's no kind of, I don't say this in a negative thing against Bond, but Bond is always like, hey, look, he's British, that kind of thing. There's none of that. There's no, hey, look, they're Australian. Hey, look, there's India. Hey, look, we've got an American here. There's none of that. It's just they're just people who have happened to come together and form this group of an adopted family.
Probably because it's only a half Australian film, so...
This is an Australian film, Steve, and we should be proud of it as Australians. A Screen Australia's logo is second at the beginning of this movie.
Who's this first?
I think it's Miramax, isn't it?
He who shall not be named.
Yes, we don't mention that. Not in relation to such a wholesome movie as this.
Weinster-Mort.
Oh, he's done it.
Right, let's give this thing a rating. You know what? Should it be out of butterflies?
Yes, it should.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, let's do it.
Unless we can remember the name of that childhood sweet he liked that he remembered when he was older.
But it did look very yummy.
They do look yummy.
I want 50 of them.
Yeah.
Then we would come back and buy the whole store.
I'll stop. Yeah, butterflies. Let's just butterflies.
Decommissioned trains.
Who would like to go first?
I'll go first, if that's all right. Look, I've had nothing but and I say pleasant, I mean, I bawled my eyes out the first time and definitely cried still the second time round. I think this is such a well-written film. I really struggle to fault it, to be honest. And I've seen both the theatrical version, and then this second time around I did watch the extended version. I couldn't really remember what was new. Like you say, that rave is definitely new, but that's it doesn't really matter. It's only about 10 minutes longer. Anyway, it's such a wholesome movie, and it's just such an incredible story. The fact that this even happened just blows my mind. I just think it's amazing. I was dragged to see this film the first time. I didn't really know what it was about. I was just... Mum had seen it every time. She said, Matthew, do you want to come and see this with me? I said, yeah, sure. Why not? And I sat there absolutely captivated and just loved it and, couldn't wait to sort of see it again, really. I can't fault this film. It's a 5 from me.
It's a 5 from me as well.
Yeah.
I love the story. I think it's been treated with the respect that it deserves. Like Steve, like you said, it doesn't have to overstate anything. It's not being aggressive about its message. The extended cut runs, I think,
It's about 2 hours.
2 hours?
2 hours 20, I think.
Yeah, it runs it's 2 hours and about 10 minutes, including the credits.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And, hang around for the credits too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All the stuff in India is just shown flawlessly. Every single bit of it, the beauty of the country, the pain of the country, it's all there. The story in India feels like an internal story, like it's a story in his head. And then the second part, it's a story on the outside. And it just does that in a wonderful way. So yeah, it's 5.
Steve.
Ready. We're finishing off strong here.
Yeah,
Australia month.
I was going to say, end of Australia month.
Look, I'm going to give it 4, which is no mean feat. All right?
Yeah, that's your best rating this 4 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say that probably the investigation part of this movie is maybe where it drags a little bit and could be tightened up a little bit. But it exists for a reason. It's there to create the trauma for Saru. I just think it could have been done a little better. Nicole Kidman's accent is jarring. It is jarring.
Nah, she's fine.
And yeah, I'm gonna, until we actually get this sort of this thing sorted, taking off a couple of marks just because of that extended landscape shots at the start.
But they fit in both plot wise and thematically.
You know what? Just because someone, this is rewarding bad behavior.
Right? Do you reckon the director who made Rams saw this film and thought, I want to open my film with long establishing landscape shots?
Well, they did that in the dry as well.
They did do it in the dry as well.
Yeah, they didn't do it in the dish.
Look, we're wearing him down, Alex. So I think if we were to do a 5th Australian film,
okay, that's fine. Like, we've been
good.
granted a lovely score from Steve here.
4 is good.
Let's leave it at that. That's an excellent 14 out of 15.
Well
for
deserved.
Our last film of Australia month.
It's been fun. I've loved this.
Not only is February hot as balls, but you really put some sand in my craw here.
Wow.
Oh, Steve, it's okay. We've got some big releases coming up over the next couple of months, so we've got all the things that we can talk about.
Got some American films coming. You'll be happy with those.
Hot damn, I love those.
And we've got plenty of requests as well. You've been sending in your requests, and we've been sort of doing a lot of other stuff, on the side here. So we will get to your requests. We promise you that. Don't worry. And of course, you can send us a request via the website or via an email, contact@trailerisland.com.au. You can hit us up via the Facebook page. And if you're aware that Facebook did a ban on a lot of Australian Facebook pages recently, Trailer Island was unaffected.
Which is either a really good thing or a really bad thing.
Yeah, I don't know. So you can send us via the Facebook page as well. Now, don't forget, if you've enjoyed our podcast, it'll mean a lot to us to give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends as well, because we'd love to have more of you listening to the show because we really appreciate it.
We love you.
Yeah, yes, please don't forsake us.
We could be like your adoption children as well.
Sure, why not?
That's left a bad taste in my mouth, that one.
We've been the Trailer Island Podcast. New episodes every Wednesday. That's been episode 4 of Australia Month. Thank you very much. I've been Alex. I've been joined by...
Matthew.
Steve. I couldn't come up with anything. Steve. It's Steve this week.
Good night, everybody. Ghetto.
This is a Narrative Network podcast.